that we got at last week's meeting. Sometimes I don't get to read them all, but they are helpful when you come back to the meeting. So, do I have a motion to approve the notes as circulated? Any seconds? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same. Okay, good. And the same with the agenda. And if nobody in the audience has an agenda, we've got this one or so Jen's been posted and published. We don't have one. Anything you want to bring up about the agenda? See no hands. Move to accept. Second, please. So all in favor of accepting today's agenda, say aye. Okay, and I did want to say that now is, I don't know if you're going to introduce the meeting, or you want to give us the public speak, which one you want to do?
Yeah, just really quick introduction of the meeting. It's essentially going to be the same thing as we did last week, as we'll do on Monday. This is just a continuation of the SAC's conversation and discussion over the zoning applications. As just a recap, the SAC had been given a couple of weeks time to review these. There's been a survey monkey link provided to the SAC members to kind of help make this conversation more productive and more efficient. And we'll go into that here in a minute. But again, this is just a continuation of last week's hearing.
Okay, and now it's time for public comment. We're doing it a little bit differently. We're doing it at the beginning of the meeting. So, anybody?
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, I just have a very short presentation. Quick little handout.
Tell us your name.
Pardon me?
Tell us your name.
Oh, I will. I'm Blake Wilson, although I think you know that already. You can just have me down there. These guys right have it up there. Okay, thank you. I represent the Patapsco Voting and Social Association, which is quite a name. We shorten it the Patapsco Club, and I am on the zoning committee, and we have supported the MA2 recommendation for 1132 Pasadena Yacht Yard Road, PYY Marine. You may or may not get to it tonight, but it is on, eventually will be on the agenda. I'm going to keep my presentation brief. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So there is a picture which shows a building called a botel. It's a large metal building. This one is 20 to 30 feet in height. And it is located at a marina on the Bodkin Creek. This is an aerial view of the marina near our property. This is the Patapsco Club, 25 homes. We've been there since 1893, okay? Not me personally, but I feel like. Although my wife's family goes back to that original group. So we are supporting MA2, but we're doing it, you know, having to take a bitter pill. It's not fair for the marina to have to continue under a non-conforming use. The only options available for letting them out from under non-conforming use are 3 zoning classifications under the commercial code: MC, MB, and MA2. MA2 is the least objectionable of those to a community, but it still allows bars, restaurants, and banquet halls. That's not your problem. That's a problem that will have to eventually be dealt with the zoning code, but too late for us. So we are going ahead and saying we support MA2 as a compromise, because back when this first came up in 2021, we opposed their MC and asked that it be kept for a non-conforming use. Now, they scheduled a hearing, they took comments, but at the last minute, the hearing was tabled. So there was never any position and never any outcome of that. So now the marina is back asking, I'm told, I don't know, because there's no public notice of this, but I've been told that they're coming back and at MC, and we would oppose that. We would also oppose MB because these motels and outdoor structures are allowed under MC, just allowed. Under MB, they're allowed as a conditional use, which means there are some setback requirements that are determined by the Office of Planning and Zoning. They are also allowed under MA2, but only through a special exception process, which requires the administrative hearing process to start. there are some additional hoops to jump through in order to qualify for rezoning under that process. And for us, there's a chance to have a public notice and a hearing, which we think is very important. There would be no hearing under MB or MC. That's it in a nutshell. I've enjoyed these meetings. I'm new to the county. I've learned so much by sitting through them. I'm going to keep sitting through them until the very end. But it's been a great process for me as somebody new to the county. I want to thank you for all your volunteers. So I appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Could I ask one question, Blake?
Yeah.
Has your neighborhood been in touch with any of the other neighborhoods that
Yeah,
have marinas?
I'm
or-
going to tell you, we did it back then, but this time I've had no time.
Okay.
We didn't have any time this time.
I'm just curious of the ones that I already have restaurants, and there are a number of them.
Oh, I have not talked to them,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
but, you know.
They're not all in our region, but they're.
Right. Oh, I've been to those restaurants and there's a huge parking problem in many of them. And I don't know how that ever happened. I mean, there's, you know,
Amy?
Yes, hi, thank you. I'm Amy Leahy. I'm the Vice President for Public Affairs for the Greater Severna Park Council. And I am here to discuss one of the,
okay, I'm done. Thank you.
oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm here to discuss one of the rezoning applications that has come in. It concerns a piece of property on Ritchie Highway, 440 Ritchie Highway in Severna Park. It is about 11 acres. It is Cypress Creek area.
Right, it's Cattail.
Cattail Creek, thank
Cattail
you.
Headwater,
Cattail
yeah.
Creek, thank you.
Yeah.
So this piece of property has a bit of history. Back during the Shoe administration, we actually, it was under development. It was actually zoned R5, the whole 11.3 acres. So one of the developers wanted to come in and build homes, townhomes. It was decided that it was very environmentally sensitive area. So Greater Severna Park Council worked out a deal with the county, with Coke Homes, to take about 9 acres of that and put it into open space. The area is completely surrounded by property that's owned currently by Recreation and Parks. It and on the other side is abutting the Baltimore Annapolis Trail Park. So because it was so environmentally sensitive and because it's one of these areas that would have greatly impacted the waterways, we worked out this deal. So there were basically about almost 2 acres that was on Ritchie Highway that was agreed to be commercial property. Years later, it's been on the market. Nobody has purchased it. We again approached this time Stuart Pittman's administration and asked that that property be purchased with program open space funds. So the agreement was worked out. Subsequently, we found out that the property was actually, there was in tax arrears. So as soon as we thought we were going to be able to purchase the property, suddenly there was this tax problem. The property actually went to tax sale in April, was purchased by someone else. And I understand that the new owner has put in an application to have the 2 acres basically on Ritchie Highway still be commercial and the rest of it be an open space. Go ahead.
The 9 acres other than commercial, I think has been requested to be split into half of it to be R5. And half of it is open space.
Really? That was not what
I have their
understood.
letter right here.
Okay, I was told something differently. I was told
Yeah.
that it was actually the 9 acres would be an open space. So this has been a concern for us. Greater Severna Park Council is in support of having that whole property be open space so that eventually, and I don't know how this is gonna happen, but we would like to have the county purchase it so it can be all part of the Recreation Park property. So I just want to let you all know that little bit of history. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So was that deal to put it into commercial, was that cut with the person who lost at a tax sale?
No. Okay.
Yes,
Oh.
well, it was, but actually, no, it was Coke Homes, because I think Coke Homes was the purchaser.
In the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, in the
So the
beginning.
deal was cut with Coke Homes. Coke,
Oh,
it
yeah,
goes through a tax sale. It's bought by whoever redeemed it at the tax sale. when it comes in as a tax sale, does that agreement run with the property?
I would just look at that thing today.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Supposed to run with the land.
This is the original agreement from,
And that's recorded in land records?
I can't answer that for sure,
Can,
okay?
All right,
Yeah, and it's a little bit more complicated, but I didn't really want to go into the whole thing.
This is gonna be a discussion topic of the night, so this is one of the few that the SAC did not come to a consensus on, and we brought up to discuss.
Okay.
I think
It's complicated.
you started a good discussion and laid the groundwork for it, so.
Thank
Jessica,
you.
did you have something?
Well, we're not going to spend too much more time. Does anybody else want to speak before Bean?
Does anybody online wish to?
Right, you're here. He just walked in and he has comments.
I'd like to speak, well, I don't think you can.
There's some actually.
Why don't you give us your name, sir?
My name is Ryan Thurston, and my father is Larry Thurston. We own the property at 8140, 8144, 8146, and 8147 Hollow Neck Road. I know you guys, I'm pretty sure you're not reviewing those tonight. But I did want to kind of speak on those and maybe give you guys some pamphlets that we put together as well. For the combined addresses at 8140, 8144, 8146, which is 0.9 acres of property with water and sewer, we would like to provide a storage lot to support the needs of surrounding communities, which require C4 zoning in our county. This property is located directly across the street from another C4 property. With the increase in sales in RVs and boats at all-time high in the past 3 years, there is a major need for vehicle storage in the community. Due to local storage lots being at full capacity, this leads to illegal parking on community side streets in front of neighbors' homes, creating a safety hazard. This illegal parking causes accidents due to blind spots as well as risk of pedestrians being hit by vehicles while not being seen when crossing the street. There is also interference with trash pickup, conflicts between the homeowners and community associations, which results in fines and towing. With our request, we are trying to create a legal, low impact C4 area for the communities to park their recreational vehicles as well as be convenient location for them. For 8147, which is 0.36 acres with water and sewer, we're requesting resume G4 to fit the needs of our current family contracting business, which we operate from here today. We have been Pasadena residents our whole entire lives and want to continue supporting our local community needs. At this property, we would like to be able to park our equipment as well as store building supplies for our business. We're here to support our community and are planning to keep these properties in our family for generations to come. We do not want to be treated special. We just want to be treated equal to the neighboring C4 zone properties that are across from us and beside us.
Any questions? Thank you. Anybody else? We're running out of time, so it's got to be short.
And all I want to do is just Judy Paquita here is my neighbor and also one of our zoning committee members. And Jerry also, Jerry.
You have two of your
Yes, I live directly beside PYY, so they literally walk in my yard and deliver my boat, so I have a front road feed to everything that goes in.
sounds like. Okay.
Sorry. Do you have a copy of that for? Oh, we are passing it around. Excellent. Thank you.
I was gonna ask. Because
anybody else online or in person interested in saying a few words before we get started?
you wanted to chat.
Yep. Don't worry.
All right, not seeing any moves for people at home who are interested in speaking. I do just want to remind you, if you're an attendee, you can use that reaction button at the bottom of your screen. There's a raise hand feature if you wanted to say a few words before we get started.
I'm just having a little trouble with my volume in my headphones, so, but I'm here.
Thank you, Lori. Okay. Not seeing anybody making moves to provide public comment from home. I'm gonna go ahead and get started.
So as Jesse pulls up the next couple slides, on behalf of staff, I want to thank each and every one of you all. You guys, every single one of you 15 submitted your survey monkey response. It's hugely helpful. It makes this meeting potentially go a lot smoother, a lot more efficient and more productive, and we really appreciate it. So one thing we were able to do, since all 15 were able to provide their input, on the slide you see in front of you here, these are the applications you guys reviewed through the second Survey Monkey link, the ones that we're planning on discussing tonight. As you can see, there are ones highlighted in a yellowish font. Those are ones that all 15 of you agreed, at least you had a consensus onto the Survey Monkey link. So, in theory, you all agree that with staff's recommendations on the ones highlighted in yellow. And we have slides broken down if you want to see one specifically, how one kind of came out. But as this kind of reads, it states that there's really only 5 that need to be discussed because they do not have consensus from the SAC. I just wanted to provide that information to you all.
In consensus, 66 and 2/3.
Correct, it's 2/3 of the group, so it's 67%.
And just for fun, the Gibson Island one, everybody agreed on that one.
Can I make a motion? Before, I think, I know last time we went through a lot of these. I think I'd make a motion that if we came to a consensus on these, we should focus on the ones that we did not come to a consensus on. So I would make a motion that we accept the consensus on these. Go with OPD's recommendation and focus on the 4 or 5 applications that we did not come to a
Can we do
consensus.
that a little bit later when we get into it, because there may be some questions.
Okay.
Some people,
Forgot what they ordered.
Oh, he has a motion. It either has to be seconded or has to be turned down.
Yeah.
I
I'll
second that.
second that, we discuss it and then. So we still have a discussion of this right now?
So you're in discussion now.
Yeah, okay, all right, well, I have some comments on 5018 and 5101. And the ones after that, I don't think I do for the ones on Mountain Road heading to Gibson Island, but the first 2 I do. So is that something you want to talk now, or how do we want to do that?
So he's got a motion on the table that states to accept all those consensus. We either need to vote on that, either up or down,
Understood, but do
but
you,
to discuss his motion of whether or not to include those or not. Or do you want to amend the motion to withdraw certain ones?
okay?
we
Well,
have the one motion on the table.
Right, well, Bo, that's fine. What I would recommend is amending this motion to leave out 5018 Mountain Road and 5101 Mountain Road so that further discussion can be had.
So you're talking 015, 016.
They're significantly different than the others, I think.
I'm just trying to name them in a way that's.
Okay, is there a
Well,
second to the?
You accept. I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm just trying to be, I'm just trying to be as efficient as possible here.
we're
Yeah.
changing the motion.
So I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Can you restate the motion?
So I'd make the motion that I would move to accept our consensus on all of the applications which we came to a consensus on, except Pasadena 15 and Pasadena 6.
Second,
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we're gonna do a roll call vote, just to make sure we have everybody's vote counted.
Where do you want to start?
Yeah, so, Michael?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Bo?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Walter?
aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
And Shayla?
Aye.
And that is everyone that is present. Guys have it.
All right. So how do you want to start on the list?
I was just gonna roll through them in order, in like the geographic location order then, so we would start with Pasadena 5, Pasadena 15, 16, 30, 31, and so on. Which is roll through.
I'll see my phone.
Okay, so this slide is for Pasadena 5, located at 3401 Mountain Road. As you can see on the screen behind me, this one did come through as a deferred LUCA, so the SAC did discuss this back in the winter. And so I just provided the table that was available on SurveyMonkey, and then the breakdown of the votes. Just because of the way it came out, I just put the numbers on the side so you could see them a little bit clearer about what the actual count breakdowns were for those votes. But once everyone gets a chance to look, I can switch us over to GeoCortex so we can get a better view of this.
Jess, do you have the commentary that went to any of these?
I was trying to keep it to one slide, so I don't have that
You don't have
for me
that.
right now.
All right,
But I can get it for you in a second.
well,
All right, so let me get out of here. What's the GeoCortex? All right, so here's the property on the map. And right now I've got our planned land use layer on at about 50%. So those are the colors you can see on the screen. And so you might recall from that slide or from the SurveyMonkey, when staff brought this up, we're proposing having C4, which is the applicant request, on the northern portion of the property. Our original thoughts were to have this C4 go from about the line with, I believe, this property over here. So it would continue over. So it'd be C4 north of that, and then R2, which is the current zoning on the property south of that.
Is that a stream?
That's what I was asking.
This is the stream that's cutting through that light blue portion in the middle. And also, if you recall from our conversations earlier this year, the ramp for Maryland 100 also cuts through this property. So staff's thoughts were, commercial is consistent with the area. There is some commercial up along Mountain Road there. I can switch to the zoning layer if you'd like to see what specific zoning districts they are. But also the R2 is fairly consistent. And given the stream and the limitations of this parcel, we determined that having the commercial on the north half, I just turned on the zoning layer for y'all so you could see a little bit. There is some C4 in this area just north of this parcel. So yeah, a little bit about the thoughts. Yeah, just that commercial is consistent, R2 is consistent. And for that dividing line, just that it would give enough space to do something with the acreage we would allot to be commercial. Keep in mind that there are development regulations. You can't get within so many feet of the stream. And so we were thinking beyond south of the stream, that still commercial could be the required open space that also comes with development. But yeah, that was staff's thoughts. I'd love to know everybody else's thoughts.
well, first of all, you recommended C4.
Was that not? What's that?
R2 seats.
Right, R2. I thought it was. Yeah. I mean, I don't have any problem with commercial there, although I think C4 might be a little much. I would prefer C3. And if that's really pretty much the same, then somebody needs to explain that, because it seems to me C4 is pretty heavy for that spot.
I thought we were trying to be consistent. I think we avoided split zoning parcels, and I think we're doing something other than what we've undone on other parcels. So I think the whole thing should be C4. I mean, you've got 100, the ramp for 100 there, and having residential closer to the highway, it to me doesn't make sense. I think you know, the whole thing should be C4 instead of split zoning it. You know, the regulations you mentioned that would, you know, set back from the streams, that would be the same with a C4, T2, so it's.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
If there's any use in
I would worry about some of the other lots that appear to be residential. If you bring it all C4 all down.
residential.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the streams on the water there anyway, so they're not gonna get too close to the stream there, so you're
I'm
gonna.
not talking about the stream. I'm talking about
The
the
lots.
neighbors on that, you know, the C4 will be in their backyard.
Yeah,
Right.
right now they've got a
They
wood
have a
buffer
100-foot
and they're
buffer.
gonna have a C4. You know, they could have a,
And there is a stream along these lots right here.
So you have a natural buffer.
And
I have a question. I guess. I don't understand how State Highway has a ramp in private property. So my question is. Did we check to make sure that's right? I don't know, I mean, we can't even put a traffic signal in something that's not owned, not right away that's owned by the state.
They probably had an easement.
So I didn't know. So I guess part of it is, should the state be buying that piece of parcel that their ramps in, should that be theirs? I don't know what that process would look like, but I was just curious. I know when we originally, overall for the parcel, I know when we were originally talking, this was a big discussion. We kept going back and forth and I kind of do like the idea of splitting it. As in, there's always the exception to the rule, because I know we've been trying to not do that, and I thought if any place that we would consider doing it, this would be a good place to have it. Personally, I wouldn't buy a house that goes on to Edwin Rayner that was, you know, if I was built in that. But I also don't like the idea of that whole area being bogged down with commercial just because of how bad the traffic is right now. I mean, that's a very busy intersection.
Well, with that ramp, where it is in the southern half of the, or southern third of this lot, you couldn't really build anything there anyway, could you? I mean, with setbacks and that sort of thing, I mean, isn't it unlikely that you could put anything there?
It would be a challenge most likely.
Yeah,
So then you look at the rest of that lot, say, okay, well, all right, so if we split it and say that I would say the remainder of it be C3, but I could probably agree to that. I don't know how you deal with that part where the ramp is, other than saying it's not usable.
Like the triangle, is that what you're talking about?
on either side. of it.
Either side of it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, I'm just trying to.
It's two triangles, really.
Okay.
oh, Shayla has had her hand up for a minute, so.
So it's my understanding, listening to everyone, is that one, the application is saying that this makes the most sense because like you're all saying, no one's going to build a home there. So that's why it makes sense to do the C4 for the traffic easement. And also that along with putting this in, like you said, there's not just going to be, this isn't just going to happen. There's still going to be the environmental tests. There's still going to be making sure that the stream is not impacted. So it sounds like the safety nets are there. And then, like we said, the remaining would then become open space by default. So I'm not understanding the need to
Yeah.
split.
My reasoning is not that same reasoning. I'm in favor of commercial for the whole thing, but it's not because no one wants to live there or whatever that reasoning, just FYI. I mean, there's plenty of places like that in Pasadena where they're backed up against some commercial.
And the application doesn't sound like that's the issue. They would rather it be C4. So it's like I said, it's not a matter of like, yeah, anyone wanting to live there or not, but just, I'm just
Yeah,
confused about.
there's already commercial there, so I feel like you ought to stay
Exactly.
where the commercial is. Mhm.
Exactly. So I just was saying I didn't understand the motion to make it, or the discussion to make it two separate when C4 is available.
what's up with that one parcel in the corner up the intersection with Mountain Road? Yeah.
This one?
That's gonna be.
That's
a-
already,
Yeah, they did file a Luca during the Plan 2040 process, but they withdrew it.
All right, so that is some sort of residential right
It's
now.
R5.
oh, I thought there was already planned development. Okay.
The long-term plan, I believe, is to be fully commercial that piece at some point.
Right now, there's design plans in the county for that southeast corner
See if I can find them.
for assisted living facility.
Yeah.
Oh, assisted living.
Mhm. With the access dumping onto Deering Road, not on Green Mountain Road.
All right,
Pretty much where they're showing that access on the
Right.
driveway.
right. Right, okay. Because, and this, I think this is gonna come up with a lot of properties today. We're sitting here, we're making judgments. Nobody would want to live there. But then at the same time, we talk about the need for the missing middle housing. And I don't know if we can really be, because someone could. And
Sure.
yeah, we're thinking no, but then we're thinking somebody who wants some space, wants to move into the county, wants to get in good school districts, wants to be in this, in with all the other desirable attributes. I don't think we can say, well, nobody will want to live there.
But
then-
housing is a big problem. with
Yeah,
traditional
yeah, thank you.
The corner we were talking about previously, we. This one
Mhm.
does have a site development plan on it for assisted living facility.
And assisted living is, I mean, depending upon how big it is, it's, and I didn't bring my permitted uses table, but it's permitted in a lot of residential densities. Assisted livings.
Right, does it say how large that is?
You want to know the size of the
Like
property?
16 beds or?
The size of the, ooh, I mean,
Other bigger than that.
That's pretty small. That's pretty small. Well, okay,
Go up.
maybe.
I just want to throw out there that with the development of assisted living, we actually gain middle housing because as a first-time home buyer, I was competing with people who were retirees and wanted to stay in the area, but they couldn't downsize because there was nothing smaller to move into.
Can we confirm that there is no sewer there?
that's a good, let me do that one. real quick.
Actually, I mean, maybe there is.
Designation for water and
There's-
sewer.
There's sewer along Mountain
There is, okay.
and water.
Although if you do put commercial in there, then probably would have to improve the roads to develop their site. Just saying.
If there's a thought of like missing middle housing or something of that nature. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, we've talked about the split, having the commercial up along Mountain Road. I mean, it would almost, keeping that bottom portion R2 seems like kind of just writing off that piece of the property. This might be kind of crazy, but I mean, you could look at doing a higher density residential for that bottom parcel. So you could do like multifamily or something similar.
Need a lot of acreage.
Not if it's like R15. If it was like an R15 zoning on that bottom piece. I mean, you've got access to 100. You're close to commercial center.
Maybe Doug knows, Doug,
Donnie,
you know, if you want to do certain R15, you have to have a certain maximum or minimum lot. And so I'm saying,
Oh, right.
since this has all these,
What kind of structure is R15?
Like an
Parcels.
apartment.
Apartments, okay.
But it's gotta be, I think it came up last time, like 7,000 square feet or something.
well, I don't know the parcel amount. I don't have that in my mind. I know
This
it's
would probably,
And,
I think it would probably.
and so
make
my
it.
guess, when State Highway did the take to make that ramp, it was a much bigger parcel. And they either, you know, have a fee strip there or an easement.
Right.
But I bet you when they took, because 100 and all of these things are required decades ahead of time. And I bet it was that whole thing and they just peeled off that one corner with an easement or something with it. And then now it's become sort of an orphan.
Right, but I mean, it's still, if we're gonna leave it as art, I guess I'm looking at the property and. Whether or not, like the development, I mean, if you're gonna develop it as R2, that's fine, but if we were to boost, if we're looking for places to put. Development and housing. I mean, it seems like
to do the whole thing.
you could do the whole
Yeah.
thing, I mean, the commercial up front makes more sense, I
Maybe
guess,
that's to me, but when you say about
yeah,
what we're looking for is.
I mean, but.
different kind of house.
Putting a high density, raising the density of this. I think if
Yeah.
you're gonna leave a portion of it residential, I think we
Yeah.
kind of almost need to.
I think so.
Residential in some ways probably isn't as big a traffic issue
Yes,
as the commercial.
Yeah,
Right.
And to me, that road's already very busy. And there are times where, you know, the traffic light at Mountain Road and Edward Raymond. It's significantly
So
backed
they have
up.
11
I mean,
foot-
all the roads going northeast in that area are, they're just like that. There's no other way in and out.
Right, so
I don't-
everything, yeah,
Well, I mean, this is not, I mean, it's one section there. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because
that it-
right now there's turn lane for deering. And
right.
depending on what happens on the 11 acres, it might make sense to make deering an intersection.
Even when you say intersection, are you talking about traffic light?
yes.
Well, maybe.
I'm sure there will
And
be.
then
Zoned out, like,
you got like a half block in between lots.
I know. Yeah,
But then with the high intensity commercial up on the corner, it will be a C-store or
Oh, right at it.
something like that.
Traffic signals have to be 800 feet apart.
But I mean, you can do things that you need to do on your way home, which is better than sitting in traffic and I don't know, you can get your stuff done.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Where else are you gonna get your errands done?
This is a tough one.
Yeah, because we don't want to just, I mean, right now it's a strip of woods.
I think R15 isn't unreasonable. And it does provide a location for that kind
I'm
of.
talking about the whole thing, being R15.
Both sides.
I don't know what the limits are on 15. so-
I'm trying to.
From a planning standpoint, or from a development standpoint, maybe nobody knows this answer, but I don't know. Obviously, there's some kind of setbacks and all, so the section right now at Mountain, it's all wooded. And the property just to the west of it, which is commercial. The east side of that whole property is all wooded. So if you were to have some kind of wooded setback from Mountain, you'd already have a buffer to that commercial. But I don't know if they're required to have a certain setback in that and to create a landscape buffer for noise. I don't know if that's a thing.
There are buffer requirements.
Are
I'm
there?
I'm not.
I
familiar with
thought
these.
there was consensus on that corner being commercial at the very least. I thought the lower part was what was being,
Right, but I mean, if you're gonna look at the property as a whole,
You mean both parcels together?
Well, they're not
So
two
it's
parcels.
not too far.
Well, no, I realize, but.
The two that we were talking about.
I was
Across the street.
talking about both sides of the. Okay.
I think the problem is when you want housing and you want housing. if
I just
you've
didn't
got
think
a
there was debate about them.
acne, Then it means that the C4.
There's no way to go back and look at your notes or what you voted on. I didn't bring them with me, I forgot, I can't find them. There's no way to look at that survey monkey result, right? Individually.
I can look at it individually.
There's no way we can.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but
So I've heard a mix of different things. Just for a reminder, the SAC does not have to provide a recommendation. The consensus can be reached. But again, I've heard R15, I've heard some commercial, is there a motion or anything like that on the boards or some discussion?
I'll make a motion. I mean, well, before I make it, I mean, I do think that corner is probably best served as commercial, just given its location. At what's a pretty busy intersection. It just feels like that wants to be commercial.
But as someone who drives through there on a regular basis,
Yeah,
I would say that's lunacy.
I'm sure.
Because I probably won't go there anymore if they're both,
Well,
because I don't have to, I can go somewhere else.
And isn't there a lot of commercial on Mountain Road
A
that
lot of commercial
is empty?
in my
Like,
area.
so how much more commercial is really necessary?
there's no.
I think one of the,
Because you can't redevelop, so you have spaces. to develop it.
Highway setback, you have.
I think one of the drawbacks of making it the two parcels, the commercial on the corner and the residential at the bottom is. If you just have that top half commercial, it doesn't matter if your access point is off of Mountain or off of Everett Rain, it's gonna booger traffic up versus having the whole parcel as residential and making them have one consolidated access point across here.
Because it's
Or
about 700 feet. I mean, typically the spacing should be 800 feet for signals, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And the signals through here are far enough apart that they could time them, make them work together. I'm sorry, I got a little too technical
Although
there.
that was impossible.
There-
How come they don't?
They do, but they don't.
Yeah, I just, not entering the discussion so much because we discussed this so much last time. And I realized we're all a whole lot more educated than we were when we started looking at this map, that first session. But somebody talked about noise setbacks. It's 455 feet from Route 100. You know, for now, you can build within a setback and as long as you meet the mitigation requirements the county has. But you should start off saying there's a 455-foot setback. And Jessica's talked about the buffers around the stream. If they're both perennial streams, it's 100 feet. So I just start sitting here and taking a look at the environmental features to also include what any development would have to leave aside for forest conservation easements,
stormwater.
stormwater, all of that stuff. And so my only question on this was, I believe, to OPZ was how they came up with the numbers that they did on the square footage for the commercial. I'm actually more inclined to go right now with commercial up there to the north. And then leave the rest, you know, as what is it, R2? And only because there's so many environmental features there, there really is not an awful lot, I think, that you can do with it.
So the one, I mean, the county has the one finger mapped as an ephemeral stream. The one coming
There's
down,
one there, yeah.
yeah, the one coming down is intermittent, that's what they count, if you could turn on, there you go. So those are the stream buffers per the county's mapping. So again, I think if, you know,
You don't have a lot of room at the bottom.
no, but it's still like 300 feet. I
I'm
measured
talking
it.
about, we have that cut through.
Yeah,
The break
so when I say the bottom, I'm not talking about the area between the ramps. I guess maybe I should clarify. I'm talking about the area below that ephemeral stream break. I don't know what OPD had in mind in terms of like splitting it.
What is the orange? on there?
It's set back on the ramp.
The orange is the highway noise and then
Oh,
the
that's
difference.
okay.
Yeah, so just for a little bit about. Just because I hear people asking about like what were our thoughts when we were deciding where to draw the line for commercial, it was simply just that keeping the commercial in line with this area over here on the other side of Edwin Rayner would give enough space to have some kind of commercial development. I could try to do like that rudimentary measurement if you want to know like what this area is without the stream. But the thought process was just that you can't get so close to the stream, and then having it a little bit beyond the stream would allow just a little bit more for that open space that's part of the requirements with development. So yeah, just a little bit of OPZ thought process.
That little itty bitty green spot, is that open space?
This one right here.
Yeah.
Stream buff.
Yeah, it's just the two colors overlapping, right?
Yeah, let me turn off the. Oh, no, it's a conservation plant land use, so that's an open space parcel.
Okay.
Open space.
Sorry, go ahead. So we talked about commercial and we talked about middle income housing, middle housing, and C3 may allow us, give us the flexibility to do both. Then you could do multifamily condition. I don't know what the conditions are, but that could be a good middle ground where it's not as intense commercial, but it gives us more options with that parcel and kind of have everything.
Like, I don't know what
One
can you do in C3 for residences. I know nothing about it.
So I don't know what the conditions are, if anyone has that, but it's, we do multifamily townhouses, looks like our conditional use in C3.
Because you're not gonna have a very big parcel there.
Right, so one of them could be certain parcel side, and I don't know what this is, so I don't know what the conditions are, just throwing that out there.
What I see, the description of C3 is what, titled general commercial, and I don't see anything in there that talks about residential and all, but
Mixed use.
you can, okay, all right, so that's fine.
50%. Stay for C3.
So I've heard C3. Is there any discussion on that or a motion on that?
Or going down from C4. I mean, what I'm
See, the-
hearing from my fellow residents is they want amenities in their own town. And I think that keeps people there, which reduces the traffic coming east on 100. Yeah, maybe there's more traffic on Edward and Rayner, but there's a whole lot of empty shops on Mountain Road, and so, there's commercial districts, but there aren't a lot of amenities that other towns have in their own towns.
I can make a motion and see where it goes. I'll move to
Permitted
make the
multifamily.
entire parcel C3.
And that's.
Second,
Okay, moved and seconded to make the entire parcel 11.2 acres C3. All those in favor say aye. Oh, you want to do a roll call? Okay.
Yeah, let's start with,
Aye.
Bo.
aye.
Emma's not here. Lauren, last time I checked wasn't here. If you're here, let me know by the end. Lori,
Hi.
Melissa,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Shayla,
Aye.
Walter.
Aye.
Holly, last time I checked wasn't here, but if you're here, speak now. All right, you've got until the end, in case you come back. John, it's not here today, I don't believe. Anne,
No,
Michael.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. All right, on to our next one. All right, so then I had that we wanted to circle back to 15, Pasadena 15 and Pasadena 16. For talking about these, I grouped these together, so that's why you see the other ones in this geographic region on this chart in front of you. This is the way you were asked to vote on them in the Survey Monkey as well, so you can see the Survey Monkey breakdown at the bottom. Yep.
Can you read the 4 category? Oh, okay, now I can see them.
Yep, so we had 9 or 60% say that yes, they agreed with OPZ's recommendation of a zoning of RLD. We had 2 or 13.33% say that they agreed with OPZ's recommendation of RLD zoning, but if there was time, they'd like to discuss. And we had 4 or 26.67% say no, they did not agree with OPZ's recommended zoning of RLD. And then here is the chart, in case you wanted to see more of the information.
The request by the property owner was R1.
That's correct.
Okay, and I don't know how much leeway there is and what we can suggest for something like this, but I look at a property that I believe is 64 acres. And the part along Mountain Road, if it were to be split into 5-acre lots, would allow some development and still maintain almost entirely a wooded area. And I don't know who owns this property or anything, but if it were mine and I've been there for my whole life, I'd sure want to sell off a little bit of it for retirement. So once again, I don't know what would be allowed. But I would say the part of the property closest to Mountain Road should consider like 5-acre lots.
RLD. What is that?
So,
what is that, Jessica?
so currently it's about to pop up with all of our layers on that we turned on last time, but right now we're looking at, I think this is probably sewer underneath, that's why we got the dark color. But it's in the rural plan land use from Plan 2040. And then, so that's what we're looking at right now with the background green. And let me turn on our critical area for y'all to see, because that's the big talking point over here.
Did you say there was sewer there?
There is not sewer,
Not
that
sewer, right.
color. Because it's in the no public service.
All right.
So right now, what you can see here is that light green in the front, that's just that rural plan land use. And then you can see this dark green running through the back, that's our resource conservation area, the RCA critical area. And so staff proposed RLD zoning, which is, I believe, 1 unit per 5 acres. And then the RCA along the back, that allows, I'm fairly certain, 1 unit per 20 acres. So that's more restrictive. So
Essentially what
Okay.
that means right now, no matter what this property is it's R1, R22. This property in the green, the portion of the green, the dark green, can only be developed 1 unit per 20 acres.
Right. Okay, but what I had said was like 5 acre spots. That's what you're saying RLD will allow.
Correct.
that's correct.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So to confirm, you agree with staff recommendation?
Absolutely.
We have a motion.
I have one question. Is this the property that has an active subdivision application?
I think so. Let me
And has
double check for you.
if that's the case, have planning and zoning reviewed what the implications of the zoning change?
Yes, when we were discussing this, the Lake Shore area earlier during, I want to say February-ish. We sent out a letter to the property owners in this area that have the recommended change because of that plan land use change. So we sent out about over 100 letters. We let folks know if their property would have a change to your subdivision potential because of the change in zoning. And there was a letter specifically sent to these folks because of their their active subdivision.
So if we recommended zoning change, how does that impact their plan? That because it's quite an old, I mean, I think it's been around for a couple of years. So that property owner has probably made a pretty large investment in terms of putting those plans together, going through review, et cetera. And then for us to kind of change it on them.
What is it now, RLD?
It's currently R1 and we're proposing RLD. It cuts their allowable subdivision, I think, around in half, but don't quote me on that one.
To answer your question, Kevin, that's my knowledge, if there is a plan out there, it would depend on the grandfathering language if there isn't. For the site.
The OPD looked at that. I just, like, as a group, I think we should consider, especially on this parcel. I mean,
R1?
How big is the parcel again?
64 acres, I believe.
you're talking,
But half of it is limited to
Yeah.
for 20.
yeah, that's your yield on that portion of the property. So you're really looking at, I mean, maybe there's 2 units coming out of that RCA piece. Yeah, I mean, I just,
Going from R1 to L.
yeah, I mean, I think we need to understand, we don't know who the landowner is, but this could be
If we're
there.
trying to do more affordable housing, wouldn't it be better to have R1 in the lower part?
I agree. I mean, I mean, my position on this whole area is, I mean, there's a lot of lots. I mean, I'm looking at it now that are smaller. I don't think they would even fit RLD zoning. I mean, I would recommend that we just keep the R1 zoning in this area and don't flip it all to RLD, but that's just my opinion. I mean, it's been R1 for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, I would second that. I mean, it's already constrained by the critical area, so you're going from having those constraints to even creating more constraint for the landowner.
And what was the zoning, because there's a subdivision that occurred on the other side,
It's all.
was that R1?
It's
And that's what they wound up getting, those lot sizes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
the whole area is currently zoned R1. The thought process behind going to RLD is that it's a really resource sensor,
Right.
because of the critical area and it's right along the bay and very peninsular. So going to RLD would limit, like, further limit subdivision potential in new septic systems that contribute significantly more runoff.
Is there any way to tell where the runoff from that property goes?
It either goes this way or that way.
Yeah, but if the whole second half of it goes to, is that Cornfield Creek? Is that what that is there?
Creek that's there, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just saying that,
Yeah, that's a lot of intensity on that.
well, I'm just saying it adds, if you're gonna do 1 per acre,
Yeah,
you added a different scope to that.
Or it's only 1 per acre. On our.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, I mean, on a 60 acre, the non-RCA, let's just assume it's, I'm gonna say. Probably a little bit closer to 2/3, but, I mean, you're talking about 30 units, and they're gonna be at least 1,000 feet from the bay. It seems unfair to switch the zoning, especially on this parcel, but I would. When I look at most of the parcels here that probably have subdivision potential left over. I mean, they have a 1,000-foot RCA buffer between them and open tidal water. I mean, most of the property that's in that dark green will never be touched. Probably never will be touched,
We're gonna make a motion, keep it R1,
all of it.
all.
I'll second that.
All of the lakeshore area?
You mean that thing?
Entire.
I think, yeah, all these parcels that we,
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So, but Bo's motion is to have the entire area down here that's being recommended to be RLD to have that retain the adopted R1 zoning.
I'll second.
Have moved and seconded. Any other questions? Okay, why don't we vote? What's this, why do we have to do the roll call? I don't know.
Just make sure everyone's.
Very transparent.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna start with Lori,
Aye.
Melissa,
No.
Kevin,
Aye.
Tom,
Nay.
Steve.
Aye.
Shayla,
Nay.
Walter.
no.
Holly wasn't here last time I checked, but if you joined, speak up before the end. John is on vacation. Anne,
Yes,
Michael.
Aye.
Amy,
No.
Bo,
Aye.
Emma was on vacation, and Lauren, I don't think is. All right, we did not reach consensus. Does anyone else? Oh, Lauren is here. Lauren, did you want to vote? Oh, if you just logged on, if you don't feel comfortable voting, no worries.
I vote aye.
Got it. All right, we still do not have our consensus.
What's the percentage, Jesse?
We are at 58.33% right now, and we would need 67% to have consensus from the essays. Does anyone want to try to make a different motion?
How about a motion to accept the OPZ recommendation of RLD?
I'll second that.
On the entire area or
On
on,
the entire area recommended.
since I just voted the other way, I do think RLD is good for the environment. It's good for housing prices. That's.
It gives you a chance to change your vote if that's what you want.
I'm gonna start with Melissa this time.
Can you just clarify, make sure we're all on the same page?
This time, the motion is for this area, let me turn off critical area for that, made it a little bit easier. So this area of the Lakeshore Peninsula, this is a park, so we're just talking about this area underneath it, where OPZ has proposed to go to RLD zoning. I believe the motion that was motioned and seconded is for this whole area to then be zoned RLD.
Thank you.
All right, starting with Melissa,
Aye.
Kevin,
No.
Tom,
Aye.
Steve,
No.
Shayla,
Aye.
Walter.
Yes.
Holly is not here. If you've joined since, let me know. John is on vacation. Anne,
Yes.
Michael.
No.
Amy,
Yes.
Bo,
No,
Emma's on vacation. Lauren,
Yes.
Lori,
I'm going to abstain.
oh, I gotta move over my formulas. All right, this time we were closer. We got 63.64%.
does that not include the staying then? It's seven,
It should include
seven on
things.
both? You're doing it out of 11 versus 12?
It's,
Yes, that's what you're calculating. was.
That's up a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're right.
So where there's two votes,
One of them doesn't show abstain.
no,
Yeah, it's a.
I got you.
Yeah, it's the.
Oh, that's the other column. Okay,
Yeah, sorry.
I had them back. Never mind.
No worries. No, I understand where the confusion is.
I was
Yes,
thinking
we've
we're
got two-
using a new column for the new vote, but that doesn't make sense. Yeah.
So we voted all RLD, all R1. Are we talked out of this one? Do we want to go with no consensus, or does anyone want to try to make any more motions?
So I just want to make a comment. You had two votes, you didn't reach consensus on either. We're obviously going to communicate that to the county council. There was a lot of discussion on this. They couldn't come to agreement. They did two votes. So all that detail is going to go forward ultimately. Just be assured of that.
Okay, that's good.
And it's okay not to come to consensus. I mean, it's probably going to happen once in a while.
All right. So then any further discussion on this one, or do we want to?
It's 16, is it?
Yep.
Give your brush up.
All right, so we're in the same area, kind of. For Pasadena 16. This time we're talking about 5101 Mountain Road, which would be this one, I believe.
This is the thing.
It's the
Same
same-
peninsula,
Yeah.
It's the same.
same spot, same question, R1 versus RLD.
Did we just vote on all four?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
so does anybody have anything else they wanted to add, or do you feel we've sufficiently? Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Oh, I see.
Are you asking for a motion? on
No,
this one?
I'm just making sure everybody got to talk. I don't want to be anybody to think I'm rushing on or.
No.
Which we could do a motion that spot zones it, right? One lot.
There we go.
You could if you'd like, to, I guess.
Tomorrow.
You guys get the whole area, not per lot, right?
Four parcels.
Yeah.
How big is that lot again?
That's 60 acre.
64.
Is that the one you're talking about?
No, not the big one, the little
Oh,
one.
the little, the,
Pasadena 16.
yep, that would be 16.5 acres.
And the staff recommendation was
RLD.
RLD.
So that means one house on that property versus the potential of
1 for 5 acres.
The critical area.
Oh, yeah,
Is it-
1 for 3. Yeah,
Let me show you.
at most 3.
So it's this one that's got the little bit of blue on it. And so their usable area is really that edge. If we want to talk about this.
I think that's not a 50 acre project.
So you're saying because of critical area,
Yes, staff is recommending RLD like we are for the rest of this peninsula. This is just, I've turned on the critical area alert so you can see their,
is that 1,000 feet?
that,
The dark green.
The dark green.
Yes, it's all resource conservation area, which is limited to 1 dwelling unit, 20 acre. Even though this is 16 acres, they have a very small area that is in what we would call the upland, outside of the 1,000 feet.
Right, I see that, but
Aren't you allowed to build outside of the buffer, not just
Well, the
critical area?
The RCA isn't, the 1,000 foot is not a buffer. It is a
Right.
designation that applies to land use. Buffer is the 100 feet off the shoreline. But yeah, you can build outside of the 100 feet.
The 100-foot buffer?
Sorry, 1,000, but
Okay,
they don't have a lot of property up there.
yeah, understood. I
Yeah.
understand that. I'm just trying to understand why they can't build within.
And it's to get a percolation test up there. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't get the percolation down in that, probably not down in the RCA. This is a tough property.
Yeah.
It's a very tough property because of this critical area.
Okay, so if we leave it RLD, it's basically, there's not a house there now, is there?
You could,
Let me see.
I think changing the zoning on this property can make a difference.
What did he say?
He
It's
said
not
that
gonna make it, it's not gonna be able to do anything more or less.
there is something in the middle there. I couldn't tell you if it's a house right now. If you really want me to fiddle with all the layers. Try to-
That, and you can see if there's an improvement.
Okay.
I think it's a run and shed. That's good structure.
It does look like it's more of an agricultural barn type structure.
Land improvement stuff, this is the stuff.
Oh.
That's valued at. I can't read. from here.
17,000.
Yeah, so it's probably
Not a
not a house.
Maybe a 30.
It's a nice room. Yeah.
There's no primary structure, it's just a barn or whatever.
I mean, Marty, I'd say move on.
Yeah, we already voted for the whole area of the
Yeah,
We
RLD.
have 5
Yeah, we have 5 more that we didn't come to a consensus on. We originally came to a consensus on these.
more. Any more questions?
Do we need,
It's listed as.
we don't need to vote to continue the RLD, right?
We already did.
I know, but
I think we're okay.
No, yeah, I think we're good. We'll note the last conversation. Thing.
All right. So
Those are the 2 years.
Was it?
Jessica, what else do you need to talk about?
now we're on Pasadena 30 and Pasadena 31, just because it's in the same area. I tossed in here the information for Pasadena 32, which is 129 Ritchie Highway. We discussed that last week. If you'll recall. But Pasadena 30 and Pasadena 31 are at 97 and 101 Ritchie Highway. I can pull them up on the map for you in just a second. Once again, we've got that table that you got on the Survey Monkey. And then for our vote breakdowns, we have 6 or 40% of the group voted yes to go with OPZ's recommended zoning, which you can see over here in this column. Keep in mind that 129 was not on that original vote because that was on a different, sorry guys. That was on a different survey. Then we've got 3 votes or 20% for yes, but if there's time to discuss. And then 6 or 40% of the votes were for no, this needs group discussion. Remember, all of those votes are in terms of if you agree with that OPZ rec. And let me pull it up on the map. So if this looks familiar, that's because we discussed it last time. We've got our Magathie Gateway. Down here is the intersection with Early Heights. This is 129, which we discussed last time and came to no consensus on. And now we are talking about a couple of properties up here. Let me turn on the addressing so we can see them while we discuss. For 97 Ritchie Highway, which is this one right here. You may recall from that chart that they have small business plan land use. That's because of a land use change application during the Plan 2040 process. Council granted them small business plan land use. The only zoning consistent with small business plan land use is small business zoning. Then for 101, they did not file a land use change application, and so they still have that R one, I believe it is, on this area of Ritchie Highway.
You said they did not,
They
they
did.
didn't ask for a zoning change?
The 101 did not,
No,
or
that's
they
the
asked for
zoning-
zoning change, sorry. But their planned land use is what's shown here on the map. I'm just clarifying because our planned land use layer right now has a little error in it. This 97 should be showing as like a pink for small business.
Is
know.
101 currently, because there's something, is there a business there?
101 is, let's check the ed stat.
They got a lot of stuff in their
A lot
backyard.
of, like 50 vehicles.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So,
And the
Industrial use.
shoulder. When they load.
Their S stat says residential, but according to Google, it's some kind of landscaping company. I believe.
I
is what
mean,
this
there's
says.
probably like 100 vehicles there. No, I don't know, 50. I was just wondering if it was like a,
all their paving vehicles,
Well, maybe it is. Maybe.
I think it's paving and landscaping.
So, yep, 97 and 101 are both asking for C3. Yeah. Thoughts, comments, questions?
And the recs again, small business. Or the recs again.
Small business for 97, just because that's consistent with the council amendment for small business
Yeah.
land use. And to retain the residential on 101. But we can discuss, if anybody else,
So staff said retain R1.
on 101 Ritchie
Yeah.
Highway, yes.
Yeah. And
And-
was there any thought about
Next to
small business for that?
We could consider that if you'd like.
I mean, it seems to me like that's what they've been for many, many years.
What's
It's not-
111, because it's in the same box as 101. So that kind of confused me too.
I think it's just two different addresses on the same parcel.
There's
Okay,
probably two structures.
okay.
Small business does not allow a whole lot of uses. Storage yard is definitely not one.
What did you recommend?
Okay, so you think it
Um,
wouldn't, it wouldn't be consistent with what they have now?
No, I mean, that's my,
Yeah,
So staff recommended on this one with the 97 in it, we're recommending small business zoning to be consistent with the small business plan land use. I know that that's not what's showing on the screen right now. You're gonna have to take my word for it that that one's got a small business plan land use. And then-
That came through a lookup or
Yes, I sent it to Tom. It was, sorry, I'm just going to my mail right now to.
While you're switching to that, I have a question. Small business isn't allowed storage. Is that storage buildings or storage of equipment for your business?
So small business is a transitional zoning district used to gap between residential zoning and commercial. To allow less coverage and less uses. It's kind of the middle ground when you want some commercial, but not everything that's allowed in regular commercial. Now. Planning and zoning during Plan 2040, we wanted to try and eliminate small business as a land use and small business as zoning because we don't think it's working that well. But Ms. Fiedler did not agree with us. We kept the small business land use, and hence we are keeping small business zoning. He feels very strongly that it is a good transitional zone, and I think she used it on more than one of the loopers along Maryland too.
Yeah,
This being one of them.
it was amendment number 63 to apply small business zoning to Luca 69, Luca 121, Luca 147, and so on.
And Greater Suburban Park Council supports that.
And that's probably one of the people supporting it.
Yeah, we feel very strongly about the small business.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know that back.
okay, but. I'm sorry, what's the number
So
on the
then
one
I
we're talking?
guess
101,
if they have their existing business as it is,
What do they got going on back there, which looks.
yeah, that's not small business.
It's not gonna end up being fixed by putting small business on it.
Right.
We probably know.
So,
We might as well give them something that's appropriate for what they've been doing for years.
well, it's want to, I mean, but small business generally, so let's say you have an existing line of houses along the road. but the road has gotten very busy. And you want to convert those houses into residential, like you're gonna have an office. That's kind of a small business use, right? But not all this outdoor storage that we're seeing in the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
What we find is that things, businesses such as an insurance company or anything where they're taking a home and we're making it into a business and it's retaining the landscape of what looks more residential, but it's housing. Okay. So the whole landscaping thing that Christine is talking about, that really doesn't fall into a small business category.
Well, I think 101, I think is someone named Faulkner who used to own a Arundel nursery.
Faulkner and Landsman.
Which is just 2 lots to the north, but it's now Maryland monogram. But 30, 40 years ago, it was the Arundel nursery. So
Okay.
I kind of understand how this developed. I don't know why there's a lot right in between them, but
So, but you know,
yeah.
so what businesses, because there's a lot of businesses permitted in residential. You can have your dentist office, you can have your, you know, tailor shop and so
We're
like that.
basically talking
So
about.
what businesses are permitted?
We're talking about Ridge High. We've got health insurance, or you've got other insurance companies.
Which are, excuse me, but they're permitted uses in residential.
We're not talking about residential, we're talking about small business.
Well,
It's
just give me a second to get my question.
Audience
And
can
I'll know if
speak.
you're the
Yeah.
right person. So what businesses are permitted
She's being Z.
are relevant?
Things like adult daycare, antique shops, art galleries, bakeries, barber shops, bed and breakfast, bicycle, skateboard, sales and service. Bookstores except adult, business complexes, childcare, clock sales, well, only into the Cs. Clothing, coffee shops, and commercial telecommunication facilities. Construction or sales trailers that are temporary. Delicatessens, dog daycare, dog grooming parlor, dwelling unit apartment, dwelling. Multifamily in conjunction with another allowed use.
And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe the distinction with small business is that it's supposed to continue looking like a residence, whereas a special exception in an R1 or an R2 or whatever can be designed however.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of those kind of, smaller business uses. The big thing that I saw when I looked at this is the cover, the coverage is limited for this, but now I can't find it.
No, no.
Yeah.
That kind of leaves it really.
No, that's conflict.
Yeah, so what does that,
Oh, correct. I just can't find it in the table.
Ron, your
No,
business?
oh, coverage. So here's the thing about small business. It only allows a maximum coverage by structures of 40% of the gross area. Your commercial business will allow more than that.
Okay. So that's gonna be where the difference is. So you can run out of your residential. There are plenty of businesses you can run, but small business is gonna be modifying their coverage. So that it maybe doesn't necessarily look like a residence anymore. But
Yeah, and business complex is how this county, that's what it calls like a 5-store strip complex, or that is our name for like shopping center. Most counties I've worked in, they call it shopping center, but business complex here, we call it that in Anne Arundel.
But
Well, this said structures, I need to go back to the definition of structure.
Yeah, because if you put a dozen trailers on your property and technically they can be moved, that's not a structure, is it?
No.
So you are.
they got wheels.
Okay. But I bet you there are a lot of trailers on that property.
So back to the discussion, and just as a reminder, these meetings are designed for SAC discussion. Please be respectful of that, and we'd like just continue on working with one another and staff as we continue this discussion. So back to this, as just pointed out, the 97 has the small business land use. And the other property has the residential.
R1.
I believe so, let me check.
101 is our one.
Yes, R1.
Do they have some sort of? Sorry, I've lost the name for it. but then they-
Non-conforming use,
Yeah, non-conforming use.
I don't know, Don,
They could have. provided it.
What was the vote?
So staff recommends small business on the 97 Richard Highway, and staff recommends R1 on the National Highway.
and so we got 60% consensus on the Survey Monkey, that was Kevin's question.
Right, okay. I mean, I understand the use, the purpose of small business. I know last time when we talked about 129 commercial was. We didn't come to consensus, I think we're pretty close. What's to the, keep going north a little bit. Just
Like
kinda
up here?
curious. Yeah, well, I mean, that's.
Yep.
When we talk about a transition. I mean, when I think of small business, I think of something more on the interior, not on the road frontage of Route 2.
Yeah,
I think more, you know. I mean, I would say Mountain Road, but most of Mountain Road is actually commercial, so. I think C3 to me makes sense here. If we're gonna, I mean, R1 does not make sense anymore. It used to.
lot 97.
I mean, I'm talking about 129. I'm gonna revisit 129 down to 91. I know that's an expansion of commercial uses, and I know Steve's looking at me right
So
now,
Ken,
but-
no, I'm really glad that you brought up this discussion, because I think that I was among the ones that voted to have this discussion.
Yeah,
And for that reason, you know, where are you gonna stop?
know.
And I said last time, that because there's an absence of necessary infrastructure for business expansion in that area. Increase in traffic and Early Heights Road is already backed up, as well as the other side. There on the east side of the shopping center. There's no sidewalks on the Early Heights area. I mean, we're growing business in that area. And piecemeal and hoping eventually the rest of the infrastructure will catch up.
Yeah.
And I say it could be done in reverse for all the reasons we've said.
Oh,
That Route 2 is already congested, that left lane that turns into Harris Teeter or, you know, into the road that gets in Harris Teeter is always backed up. And so I think what you just suggested, making those additional properties commercial is exactly what you should do. But not before there's a plan for getting infrastructure.
Fortunately, in this county.
Because there won't be a crossover there. That'll be a U-turn at that lot to get to those other.
I mean, going back to the housing discussion, what if we were to recommend higher density residential use? If we're not gonna go with commercial, I mean, I know that's not what was requested. Does that make sense to you?
Kind of does, especially if you look at, because my comment was on all three, and going back to 129, which we tabled, was that we need to look at this as a whole, not just individually. 'Cause
yeah.
it's just not, there's no consistency through it. And I think it's odd to jump back and forth between zonings, like R1 versus small business and back to commercial. I think it's kind of weird and odd, and I don't know how, it's like it
And
doesn't flow.
They're already using them as businesses, so. They're not gonna put an R1 house on that property.
What you're stopping is more growth in that area. They may have that business on there right now, but the traffic flow that goes in and out of there is minimal. You change that into a Taco Bell or anything
Right.
that now generates that additional traffic onto Route 2. It's a big deal. So this is just stopping other ones. It's the green light to have more congestion there.
Steve, when you talk about infrastructure, you're specifically talking about road infrastructure.
Yeah, road infrastructure for sure. And I mean, it's really amazing the business that area has grown. It's not residential for the most part.
I mean, clearly there's a desire, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there wouldn't be the traffic flow to that area utilizing those businesses if there wasn't a desire to have them.
Having said that, you've got some businesses, I think, that have been vacant.
Yeah.
So, but it's a good nucleus in there. And so the real question is, if you were to sit down and design a village center, and you weren't doing this piecemeal, you know, as one person submits an application, what would you say you would like to have shaded in there, commercial area around that area? To include, I think last time somebody mentioned, you know, that there's that senior residential across the street and stuff like that. No access, by the way. I mean, you can't get from there over to the shopping center, but that's my whole issue is that access is everything. If you're gonna build, you know, communities around these shopping centers, then you should be thinking about infrastructure that doesn't make them jump in their car just to go 3 blocks.
I mean, that sort of makes how residential high density makes sense. You can walk through the shopping
I
center.
mean,
there.
we could connect through that shopping center to really, I mean,
We talk about middle housing,
yeah.
But
You know.
what would require a developer to do that? The thing is, if you have your individual lot and there's no requirement that they do that, are they gonna do that?
So if we were to zone this R15 or R22, that's just throwing it out there. I mean, probably what would happen is someone would try to assemble those parcels and then develop them together. So I mean, it's not like if we were to zone this, you know, tomorrow, we're gonna see someone coming in, it would take some time.
Finally get a pedestrian bridge.
Who knows? Give them enough reasons to.
Biking and going to the trail.
Yeah,
Next to the Safeway in Arundel.
We've been trying to
yeah,
get
Yeah.
a bridge to.
yeah.
Either that intersection or the next one up.
Yeah, I mean, that you can get, if you go to that next intersection, I mean, crossing Ritchie Highway is always a great.
It's pretty, I wouldn't do it with my kids when they were 8, 9, 10. No way. People just, it's a straightaway, so.
And your infrastructure,
rough.
even if they were separate. I'm sorry.
Early
So
Heights
even if-
is,
What did you guys
Go
vote?
ahead.
sorry.
You're good, you're good.
Early Heights is less of a dip, but it's a little busier.
For Bo's question about last time's vote, we voted for both, we did 2 votes, one for C3 and one for R1, and neither one of them got consensus.
120. How many more are we supposed to go?
So,
I can make a motion.
We have 2 more. applications.
say like,
Just 2 more.
feel it all together.
Can you pull the map up? Good, sorry.
That was, you made a motion to make 101 and 129 C3 and 97 small business.
You want?
129.
I was gonna. Are you
I'll
making
make
it?
the motion, turned down last.
One.
There's a motion to make 101 and 1.
You want to do the thing?
I mean, I would make you're making a motion, no one second.
Right.
Can I talk about your
It's out
motion?
there. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I would make a motion that from 129, I can't see.
Can we go back there?
Yeah. From 129 to 91. We do R22. Throw it out there.
Second.
From 129 down to 91.
And then.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
122,
You said R.
22.
and I got a second. All right, so
What is
What that little property is. The townhouses down by the Safeway. On that side.
I think that's R5.
That's R5. All right.
Apartments on there.
And
And
one of the people that want them, I mean, they didn't all apply, right?
Russ making a representation.
They're gonna get a letter from us. I mean, they're gonna get notified,
If we change it to R22.
yes.
all right, so Kevin motioned and Lori seconded, so I'm starting with Lori this time. How do you vote?
Aye.
Melissa,
And just to make clear, we're voting on R22.
R22,
Richie. 5 lots?
Okay,
101, 97, and 91. 5 lots.
Okay, and that's for 2 of those lots, no one's even asked us for that.
That's correct.
And one that's got rezoned is SP.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Melissa,
I just don't know. I guess I'm gonna abstain.
okay. Kevin,
Aye.
Tom,
Nay.
Steve,
Have to abstain also. And just say, I like the idea, I'm a big noise person and we don't have noise buffers. But apartments allow you to mitigate those noise constraints a whole lot more. And this is close to shopping. Tell you what, I'm gonna go yes. Yes.
You just talked yourself into it.
okay. Shayla,
He talked me into it too. Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Holly wasn't here last time I checked. If you're on here, let me know. John's on vacation. Anne, Michael.
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bo,
No.
Emma's on vacation. Lauren, you still with us?
Yes.
All right.
She's still with us, or is it yes?
But how do you vote, Lauren?
Yes.
Cool, thank you. The ayes have it.
Kevin Owens.
All right, it is 7:30 and we have about 3 more to go. Do folks feel like they need a 5-minute break or do you want to keep rolling through?
Let's just go through. At the moment, she's good.
All right,
I don't mind getting.
all right, now we're on SVP 7 at 440 Ritchie Highway. We heard some public comment on that at the beginning of the meeting. Once again, we've got our table that was provided to you on the Survey Monkey. And then we've got our vote breakdowns. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So has everybody had a chance to look at the table? Are you ready to look at the map?
I got questions
Already.
already. I was looking at this one. I had questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
So for a little bit of background on this one, I know we heard a little bit about it at the beginning. During the Plan 2040 process, just because of the surrounding area and what's adopted there, it was recommended to have a planned land use of low, medium density residential. So then our consistent zoning with that would be R5. But the folks applied for a comp zoning request. And my interpretation of their application was we want to retain our adopted C3 along Ritchie Highway. And then in the back, R5 is fine, OS is fine. We just really want to keep that commercial was my interpretation of the application. And so we did our research and we found out that there was actually an administrative rezoning case. And that's how they got that split zoning that they currently have of the C3 on the front and the OS on the back. Why don't I turn that layer on so everybody can see it? And so once we found out that that decision was through an administrative rezoning, we said, you know what? We're not gonna go against the AHO. OPZ is going to recommend to maintain the adopted zoning. So I've just turned on our adopted zoning layer so you can all see it. Yeah, so
What is the definition of an administrative zoning? I don't understand.
So right now, we're doing comprehensive zoning.
Okay,
And if you're outside of comprehensive process, a property owner can still apply for rezoning. It's an individual or piecemeal rezoning, and that goes to the administrative hearing officer for review. It's a public hearing process.
okay,
All right,
thank you.
Actually, when was that applicable? Was that 2017?
I believe it was 2017. Let me look real quick while you guys look at that.
I don't think I was there, but I certainly was very involved in this whole thing, so.
What's that we're doing? And what's the burden like to get it changed?
Let the whole law.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a 2017 administrative hearing that resulted in the adopted zoning you can see on the screen currently.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I know how they came about. In fact, this agreement right here between Coke Homes and the people who own that land and Magothy River Association and a lot of the neighbors right behind that. And it basically, this agreement was to have 2.1 acres of commercial land out on highway. And everything behind it was going to be open space. And that's been in effect since, well, this says June 20th of 2017. So now apparently there was a tax sale that occurred in April of this year. And so there's a new owner. And this has been going round and round. I was told today that basically the county intends to buy this. But I don't have any absolutes on that. So I don't know what to say about this, except that for me, it should stay OS at the back and 2.1 commercial at the front.
I just had a question about the natural area part of it. Do you know if there's access other than from the trail to the county part of it? I mean, it's considered that it's, it states, I lost track of it. That the park is open, catch and release, and then natural trail, water access, but I was wondering if anyone knows if there's other kinds of access?
To the open space portion of this parcel or to the park in
Well,
general?
I guess in general, and then maybe the implications of the open space with that.
Because it's the open space because of the catch-up group.
Well, largely that's what it was, because there's ponds right there, significant size ponds, actually.
Yeah.
And so there was about a 1 year discussion, let's say, to stop building right in that area. And they agreed ultimately. There were some trade-offs, but they agreed not to build there. That they being Coke, Riva Homes, or Coke Riva property.
Can you show me the commercial part? I think, are you using red and green on these two?
Yeah,
I'm
so.
colorblind as hell, so. Just needs to make them struggle.
So I've just turned on another layer. So we're gonna make it extra hard on Bo, actually. So we've got the red. I'm gonna draw my cursor around that area. So this is the perimeter of the red. Everything closer to Ritchie Highway is that commercial. So that helps you. Oh, my goodness, I'm so sorry. I paused the share. It's on me. Okay, so here I'm gonna once again outline the perimeter of the red, which is our commercial. So where my cursor is moving, everything east of that along Ritchie Highway is commercial. And everything within this highlighted box to the west of that is open space. And then I turned on another layer. So you can see that there's a little bit of a green overcast on this area around the parcel we're talking about and over here, and that's the park space. This is park plan land use that we're looking at right now. Because there was questions about how to access this park area. So the BNA trail runs through it, and you could probably get there along Ritchie Highway if you wanted to bike along Ritchie Highway. But yeah.
Yeah, people, this is where Cattail Creek, the fish ladder is further.
Yeah.
Further across the road.
I mean, back when this was all going on, the Berrywood community just downstream from this was going through $1 million restoration of their headwaters and the streams there. So they spent $1 million, a lot of it grants from the county and the state. A lot of it's been invested by local government. And then just to the west of this is Cool Pond, which has just gone through like a $50,000 restoration. And this wouldn't have too much impact on that, but still all this, everything for the last 7-8 years has been focused on restoring the headwaters of Cattail Creek. This definitely goes against that.
What's the recommendation item?
OPZ's recommendation is to maintain the adopted zoning. You can see on here, everybody except for Bo.
Which would be all
with
open
the-
space.
It's not all open space. It's about 2 acres of.
No, but I mean,
commercial.
what would happen if, say, it would just, what do they want? They would stay that way, or I couldn't find that listing.
Let her finish it off.
The original question was, what's the proposal? OPZ's proposal is to maintain the adopted zoning. The question from Lori is, I believe, what development the applicant is looking for?
Yes.
As far as I can recall, their application didn't mention development, but if anybody else remembers differently.
There's 2 pages of.
I mean, what zoning? I'm sorry.
They
Well, just tell me
wanted-
what the code for the file is, because I have them up, but I just didn't.
We're on SVP 7. And I believe that my interpretation of their application was really, they want that the 2 acres of C2 that they currently have in the adopted zoning. And that whatever's on the back is fine. They said R5 because that was what we were recommending at the time. But as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to keep that AHO, Administrative Hearing Officer decision of the adopted zoning you see on the screen.
So there's nothing you can do about the commercial part of it? Or the zoning?
Commercials, okay.
Yeah, commercial.
The commercial was agreed to by all parties in this, in the agreement
Stay.
7 years ago, and, I mean, I don't have a problem with that either at this point in time, and I think the issue has been that the owner of this property has been trying to get someone to either develop that or to buy it, and that hasn't been, they haven't been successful with that. So now it's come down to, there's a new owner, tax sale, yeah.
They only paid, the price that they paid was like a little, 11.5 grand.
Yeah, and I don't completely
That's probably
understand
what
that.
was this, it was probably what was back owed in taxes.
That's what they paid,
Just there.
Right,
Just the-
but I believe there's either 60 days or up to 6 months for it's a year. Okay, well, I'm saying 3 different things. For the original owner to make good on whatever it is they owe, and then this reverts back to them.
So is Baltimore and Apples Railroad Company a part of that agreement?
The agreement that Christina has over there, yes.
Okay,
Okay, and Hope Homes was, and so was McAfee River Association and some neighborhood.
because that's who sold it in May, was the railroad company.
That's correct.
Yeah, right,
they were the
right.
prior owner, and now it's Cinnamon Trail Properties. Gibson Island.
However, let me tell you exactly what I heard today, and I need Christina to hear this. I was told today that McAfee River Association got a call from the head of Parks and Rec. And the head of Parks and Recs had been instructed by Stuart Pittman that this property was going to be purchased by the county.
So listen down.
That's what I was gonna say. Why can't they do
Well,
that?
that would make
Now, whether or not that, I'm just telling you what I've been told, and don't hold me to it.
Why don't I just make a motion that we accept OPZ's recommendation to keep it the C2 and the OS.
C3.
Or C3, whatever, yeah, sorry.
And then
Second.
give me one second, tab, please. Which one are we on? SVP 7? Cool. Okay. This time I'm gonna start with Steve.
Aye.
Shayla,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Holly,
it's not here.
Holly did join us.
Oh, okay.
Holly, you have until I finish the vote if you wanna make your voice heard. John is on vacation. Anne,
Yes.
Michael,
I'm gonna abstain only because we're split zoning.
okay. Amy,
I don't know why.
Understand what's gonna happen if the OPZ zoning recommendation doesn't. get voted
Holly is
on.
asking for clarification of what we're voting on.
we're voting to maintain the adopted zoning, which is a split zoning of C3 and OS. That's what's currently shown on the screen. This is the adopted zoning. This has been the adopted zoning since the administrative hearing decision in 2017.
And that the commercial zoning was 2.1 acres. The remainder is like 9.
That's
acres.
correct.
Aye.
Thank you, Amy, for your vote. But, I hit the wrong button. Oh my gosh, thanks, guys. Well,
Aye.
Emma's on vacation. Lauren. Lauren, you're muted and I didn't hear your vote if you spoke.
My Zoom was frozen. My vote is yes.
All right, recorded. Lori,
That's, I don't know. I guess I'll vote yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Tom,
Aye.
and then Holly. I believe even without Holly's vote, the ayes have it.
I'm not sure if Holly's mic is working or not.
No worries. Seeing as though the ayes have it, Holly, if you want to have me officially record your vote, feel free to put it in the chat. But otherwise, I feel for time's sake, we should move forward. Okay, the next one we're going to discuss is
965 Baden. SVP 10.
okay, cool. So this one, yeah, if you guys recall from the survey, there was one where I was like, please check over the application materials. OPZ would like to discuss this one with you. And really, that's just because, as you can see here from the screenshot, this is a unique location, given the transit area right here. This is the Severna Park Park and Ride. You might be familiar with the farmers market being there. And so the application that came in is for this property at 965 BNA that has the blue X on it. It does stretch up to over here, just for 30. And so the applicant was requesting C1 zoning. And when we looked at this property, we saw that there's also a commercial business on 959 BNA. And that 957 also officially it's recorded as a residence. If we look on it on GeoCortex, you'll see that we think that it potentially is commercial. So this whole little corner here is existing uses of commercial of some kind. And then we've got these two properties. These are two houses, and this parcel that's an access easement for the houses. And so in reviewing this property and thinking about what the future of this could be, OPZ was floating the idea of potentially the 3 commercial ones, maybe going to a C1 for all of them, maybe an SB. And then potentially maybe upzoning the 959 and 973 in the access easement parcel. Just given the proximity to the park and ride. And so the fact that this could be a nice little hub of some additional housing that could be, that could use the park and ride for transportation purposes. And that if we upzoned those, that property could then be serviced by the commercial in the surrounding area and the small business or C1 right here. But you guys truly know your communities best. And so we wanted to hear your thoughts about what it's like in this area and what you think.
I think it seems highly residential in that area, so I don't know what they're doing over there, but I just don't want to see commercial creep. And so if I see how many places are going to be commercial.
And one of them's already the Masons. The Masons are right there.
This is the Masonic Lodge.
Yeah.
Yep. So do you want me to switch to the map if that's easier? I can do that.
It's kind of funny. It sits back, so you don't know which property it's in. And the other one's a church. Looking at the Google Maps, like street level.
Let me.
Yeah, like I hear
So-
what you're saying about commercial creep, but like Bo's explaining, most of that is, it's zoned residential, but there's no residents there really.
There actually are, and we see 2.
So the
3 things.
So the 959, that's the Masonic Lodge that was brought up. Then we've got 965. It looks like 2 houses, but they're currently used for business purposes and they're the ones that applied.
So like the landscape, bricklayers or something.
957 is the Masonic Lodge, right?
Yeah,
let
or
me-
it's up there on that
I'm
line.
fairly certain the 959 is, let me double check though. So the Rising Sun Lodge is 959,
Sits.
and then 957, it says it's somebody's residence, but,
It is a residence.
okay. They're a little bit of a collector, that's why I thought they might be, something else, you can see all of the stuff
The application came in from.
for,
elevator.
that's correct.
All right,
What did
so,
you say, Bo?
It was Kevin, he asked,
Oh, Kevin.
Kevin just asked, the application came in for 965, which is per their application, they make, elevators.
That's right. I remember, I was trying to figure it out, because I remember looking at this on Street View.
all right, so full disclosure, I know the owner of the elevator company, but I think this whole thing. And I'm going to abstain, but I think that whole section kind of illustrates the discussion that I was trying to raise, that. Because the residential rehabs that happen across the street, so kind of down to the southwest of that. Were really well done and really nice, and now there's some, and that whole kind of strip in there between the trail and B&A.
So there's,
Is it's not your high-end housing, but I think the rehab that's happening there is very favorable. But then, on the other side, I see the advantage of, and you're recognizing that there are a lot of commercial uses that are permitted in residential zoning. I think there's a lot of benefit to maybe considering making that a higher density to continue the residential. But then also it would make sense to allow offices, or the way it's currently being used, which is, somebody's running their business out of that. And it's not a convenience store, it's a, not a, I don't know what those, how that use category for businesses
C2.
would be thrown in there, but it's, it could be a law office, it could be, realtor, nothing that's got a huge, not a retail application, but a commercial application. So I think that whole little section kind of illustrates.
What's 969 right there?
9, that's the
That's it.
potential plan.
Is that it?
That's at it, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and that's a straight up house. I mean, that looks like it could be sitting, it's probably a 3,000 square foot thing with a basketball hoop and everything that would go with the house.
Here's the SDAT for the
Go down.
further.
So for clarification, out of that whole corner that we're looking at, only one of those is actually a residence.
Two of them, 969 and 973 are residences, and then according to Ms. Leahy, 957 is also used as a residence.
965, you say 965, because 965 has,
Uh,
I mean, I know but there's a resident, there's a house there, and then there's like a garage.
yeah, 965 was the applicant, they were.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But they're operating as a business. That's why I'm getting clarification of what's commercial and what's actually people living there.
Yeah.
Because they're living there and.
That one's
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I have to say that the business doesn't get any traffic at all. The elevator, they get no traffic. It's just.
Well, our business is up and down.
Two houses were rehabbed. There's an underground stream. And we have tremendous water issues on that road right there. And the state has still not been able to figure out how to keep the water off the road.
Yeah.
We have major problems in the wintertime when the snow and the ice, and it gets very icy right there.
I'm gonna make of all the areas in Severna Park that, I think this isn't a bad idea. I do think like there's some other applications that we looked at, especially in the next round. I just think if we're, like, you could up the, I don't know. I feel like we should talk about this one like after the next one. And there's some other areas, like if I had to save up my marbles, if I had to save up my, where we want to put things, this wouldn't be like the spot.
Well, we do have some other applications in some of the areas that we're considering, so.
Yeah, I just,
Hold that one until we get.
I think this one's kind of
And the recommendations were,
OPC didn't come to like an official recommendation. It was more like floating an idea
Yeah,
by you guys.
I
Yeah,
will
you
say
can-
what he's not saying, which is I'm not against the idea of upping the residential in this area because of the proximity to the
yeah,
traffic,
Yeah.
the park and ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think residential.
yeah, I mean, I think upping that residential makes sense. I just. Commercial seems weird. I mean, we've like looked at other places on Ritchie Highway and we haven't been able to come to a consensus on commercial there.
Yeah,
So
this
then
one's
to
all
come
by
here and then.
itself.
commercial stuff,
Yeah, that's a good point.
For Bo's question, all of the orangey areas are R5. So this is R5 where this triangle is we're talking about. Or it would be. We're right now looking at plan land use, but the recommendation without this application would be R5.
Yeah, talk about density, because if you had more density there with the parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think density would work here and residential density makes a lot more sense.
So am I hearing a motion to table this one for next week?
I mean, or we up the density. I mean, what are people comfortable with?
Well, remember, you had one application who wanted commercial, right?
Yes.
And now we're talking residential.
I know, I understand.
So.
How
Um,
many do we have for next week?
We got about 30 applications.
30.
I know,
But that hasn't gone through, that you don't have your total of the survey to know which ones we.
that's the one we started.
The SAC have put in the survey, so we're not, so hopefully there'll be more consensus and we can maybe, if you guys want to do it again, have a consensus.
Are there other ones on the next survey that are relations right to these properties here?
No.
I mean, I would make a motion to. Increase the density to R50.
For all of this area.
Yeah, for that triangle. Cause you guys were talking about upping the density of the 969 and 73, right? 973. I mean, I just commercial here. I mean, maybe it does, I don't know.
But yeah, but there's a motion, I'll wait.
Does anyone want to second his motion?
I'll second it for discussion purposes and then we can talk about it.
What's allowed in R15 versus R5 that has
We could have townhouses.
affordable housing?
R5, Have 10 acres, you can have town.
It makes townhomes a little bit more.
It's
Easier.
townhomes, maybe like a smaller multiplex, like 9 to 12 units,
They
maybe.
were showing us all those different, so you'd have like a triplex or one of those things in there.
I mean, I don't know
Or
if it's
can you
up.
get one of these units? Is that sewer and water on that corner?
Those are
Is
good
that- I know the sewer, water.
Let me check for you.
On the backside of that road. Don't know.
Okay, so
Water.
a conditional use in R15 that doesn't appear in the lower residentials is restaurant tavern.
There you go.
So you can have the pub downstairs and
Oh,
upstairs.
well,
Going right back there with the
Does the
restaurant.
Masonic Lodge get bumped out by an R15?
I in,
15 is just part of it.
Because I would hate to do
Does that
that.
count as a
I mean, it's kind of,
I
I mean, I think
would
Somebody's gonna run down Masonic Lodge, but from the outside.
I
There
mean,
is.
that's. Maybe still own the property.
So also say B&A Boulevard right there is a small, narrow two-lane road and there are no shoulders. And there's no room for expansion.
The earlier question, there is existing water on the area.
Maybe we should include, like 9:30. Then they have access to Ritchie.
Okay,
So I just access to the access.
so
I don't even know about the park and ride in terms of its longevity. And it seemed to me I heard something that it wasn't getting the use that it used to.
Well, I said that last time.
You did?
Then, yeah,
That's
that,
COVID issue.
yeah, I mean, that's my sampling of going by there. But,
Okay.
it's definitely changed from, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
People have changed.
And that's owned by the state, correct?
One time the
So,
state wanted to
The
sell.
motion on the table is what, R22?
R15.
R15. So for this.
It was seconded,
Accepted.
but I want to call for a vote.
Okay.
Yeah, let's.
I got a question, I'm just confused because on the
the land use designations, it lumps R 15 and R 22 together. What is the difference?
R22 is just like a higher density, yeah.
So there, those last two columns, conditional, special exception permitted,
Okay,
table. There is kind of a jump with the 15, there's a couple categories that only kick in at 15. But between 15 and 22,
but it's not a difference in the number of units. It's about other.
22 versus 15 per acre.
you can't.
So that is what the 22 stands. for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot.
Number of units.
Oh,
Yeah.
Walter,
What
starting
is the
with
motion right now on the table?
the motion. this time, R15, we're just keeping it to this triangle that we started talking about, the 957, 959, 973, 969, 965, this triangle right here. Okay,
Kevin, did you amend it to add 930?
No, let's not complicate it.
okay,
All right,
so that's what we're rolling with R15, we're starting with
I have to abstain, because I know the.
Holly, are you still with us? Would you like to vote?
Don't see Holly.
Okay. John's on vacation. Anne,
No.
Michael,
Say no on this.
Amy,
I really don't. I'm gonna abstain. I just don't know.
Bo,
No.
Emma's on vacation. Ooh. Lauren,
I'm gonna abstain.
Lori,
Abstain.
Melissa,
Yes.
Kevin, Tom,
Aye.
Steve,
No.
Shayla.
Hi.
Nope.
He says it next week.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions on this one? Would we like to table it for next week?
I like the idea of tabling it next week. I feel like. After our discussion, I feel like I want to mull it over a little bit more and look at the area.
You know, it's a way to take advantage of that parking lot, like what's the best use that leverage that?
Okay, so we will revisit this next week after we get through the next setting. And so that was all the round two, batch two, whatever you want to call it. We did have some Skidmore properties from the last meeting.
Oh, yeah. We didn't know what to do with this.
Yeah. So I don't have a fancy slide for these, I'm sorry. So last time we talked about, sorry, forgive me, the layers. Right now we've got 0 on. But we were talking about 1031 and 1033 Skidmore and also 1015. And so 1033 and 1031 are currently zoned RLD. And they are requesting R1. And 1015 is currently zoned RA, and they are requesting commercial of some kind.
Can you zoom out just so I can kind of get my bearings, please?
So right now, we're looking at zoning.
This is down by the park.
So this is
Okay.
South
Yeah.
50, and so last time when we talked about it, we said, you know, this being right along 50, maybe this isn't the best place for residential. And so we talked about commercial. And so I got some information on the status of the commercial in the surrounding area that I'm gonna find and read for you guys. Yep. So the shopping center just west of 1015 Skidmore Drive, so over here, has a vacancy rate of 36.4%. The center is 82,389 square feet. And yeah, so we've got that 36.4% vacancy rate. So after thinking about it for a little bit, staff thought it over and we said, you know what, for this 1033 and 1031, they're looking for R1. We've agreed that maybe adding residential right here isn't the greatest, so we are going to keep our recommendation of RLD for these. just because there's already existing houses there and that's not adding more houses to an area or more residences to an area where you guys said it's not the greatest idea. For 1015, after hearing that there's a lot of vacancy or a decent amount of vacancy, still could go either way. We're open to your suggestion for that one. But once again, open for discussion, however anybody.
I just, we didn't, good answer.
Well, that's what we came up with last time. We didn't know a good answer. It was like,
It's
So-
kind of like
Makes me
on
highway
Ritchie
bike.
Highway where it's not really good for residential and
They
it's
basically.
not great for commercial.
If they do anything expansion with the bridge, aren't we
Yeah, that's-
looking at a lot of that land being possibly needed?
Yeah.
We can note this as part of the discussion, and you, again, you don't have to come to a consensus or even a vote on properties in front of you. So just keep that in mind, if you guys really can't come to a decision or a consensus on anything, that's perfectly okay.
Other thing to keep in mind, which I want to say at the beginning of the meeting is. So let's say you're running 50-50, but let's say somehow someone is very convincing and you fix something. This is gonna go out for preliminary review before it ever goes to planning advisory board. And we might get any kind of comments that say, oh yeah, we completely agree with you, or we completely disagree. It's gonna come back to you.
okay.
So you'll have the benefit of that public comment as well,
Good point. Wait, I'm sorry.
planning advisory board.
So the next review is by who? Oh, really? Okay, all right. All right.
Before it goes to the planning advisory board, it will come back to you, so you will have the advantage of all the public comment. So I guess my point here is, you know, if you're like, well, I'm not sure, it's okay also to pick one because it still can be changed before we go forward, based on the public comment we get, which you will see.
Recommendation for you guys is not unsure. What was the request? I apologize. It's C2 with it.
Let me look.
C1, 1015 is C1, requested zoning is
Oh,
C1.
C1. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, so 1015 is requesting C1. Staff recommends maintaining the adopted RA zoning. And then the 1031 and 1033, their requested zoning was R1 and staff recommends maintaining the adopted RLD.
Steve, what's the noise buffer do? to 10?
Well, the noise, you know, I talked about that last time. They really can't do anything about it because you can't put a noise wall in that area, I don't think. But the thing is, last time I was against putting more commercial in there for the issue of vacancies that already exist in that shopping center. But, you know, if you look beyond that, there's a car dealership, you know, that's there close to that on and off ramp. You've got the ice house that's in there. You know, if you had an office complex or something like that in that area, just even a small business, it's a much better use for that property than what's on it right now. And you know, not only that, because of that frontage road and the limitation of that frontage road, you're not going to generate a whole lot of traffic. I mean, whatever business goes into that small parcel there, it's not like where you've got McDonald's and, you know, Taco Bell that wants to build up, you know, further. That this is going to be light traffic for the most part, for whatever will go in there. It's just not an easy place to access.
I mean, there are, Steve kind of touched on it. Like 1610 is I think it's like a wood reuse business. They like recycle wood. I mean, there are other businesses in there that.
Well, I mean, there's a whole
stuff-
shopping
they're not-
center, there's
yeah.
stuff there.
Yeah.
Large portions of which Benson's at, there's the
Right.
church.
Yeah.
It takes up a large portion. They're not all necessarily commercial.
Right.
but
USDA.
USDA's in there.
Yep. I mean, kind of established you can't do residential. Here.
1015, you said we had a snowball stand. When I was a kid.
Yeah, yep.
So, I mean, it's a dilapidated property that deals, illegal pharmacies often, has been dealt off that property for a long period of time. There was a shooting there.
Where's that
So
one
It's
permitted
it's not a
use?
place to live. In a compromise from last time, I'd offer up 1015 for the C1 as requested and 1031 and 1033 as RLD keeping it.
I'll second that.
That's a good compromise for me. So we need to take a vote. Any more questions?
Is there any discussion? No, just roll call.
So I heard for, ooh, I got my fancy numbers.
1033,
Or
you would be at RLD as recommended by OPZ. And the 1015 would go to C1 as requested by
the
the
applicant?
applicant.
That was C1, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna start with Anne,
Yes.
Michael.
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bo,
Aye.
Emma's on vacation. Lauren had to go. Lori,
Lori, you're muted.
if you're with us, I'll circle back at the end.
Sorry, I
Melissa,
had to do something.
no worries. How do you vote?
I'm gonna abstain.
Melissa,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yeah.
Tom,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Shayla, Walter.
Aye.
Holly.
No.
John's on vacation, and that's everybody. All right,
I have to say, though, I think that's a good solution.
You gotta redo your percentages. Yeah,
You did.
We got like 110.
I just appreciate both.
There's 5
suggestions.
absent.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think the question is, did I mess somebody up who was an abstain?
I only saw Lori as an abstain.
Yeah.
Who's an abstain?
This is one.
So then we had 9 yeses, no against, 5 absent. And 1 abstain,
How's that 100%?
because I don't count that.
Or no nos. I think it's 100 when there's no nos, right? Nays.
Yeah, no,
Doesn't count.
yeah, it doesn't count.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
Okay,
It's not a no. If it counted, it wouldn't make sense to do it.
so that covers the first 2 batches of zoning reviews. Again, on Monday, the 26th, like 5 days from now, we have about 30 to 33 to go over. I know it's late, it's 15 compared to 8:30 last time. Do we want to discuss any more tonight?
Definitely have looked at.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's all that staff had.
Get through 30 some in one meeting.
That's the question for the SAC.
But we have to look at it ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
We can do something similar tonight.
Yeah, and if we roll
Past
in the
15.
15 that are done.
Yeah.
Do we want to potentially
There were
schedule?
20 something here, right?
We're just gonna cross our fingers.
Is there any that you all think that
Next week, Monday.
be worth discussing a little bit to give a better overview of something?
There is one I think we could do tonight, but if people are tired, I'm not gonna.
I think it'd be helpful if you've got one where you all couldn't reach a decision, that maybe that would be a good one.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see one in this next round for 6 North Old Mill Bottom. And once it comes, so we're in the same area over here-ish. And once you see it, I'll explain in a second. So this application came in, and as we've stated from the beginning, this is like an open application period. You don't need to have a development plan, you don't need to have a lawyer, you just need to have a dream and a computer to fill out the application. And so this one came in for the one that's highlighted, 6 North Old Mill Bottom. And you'll be able to see it on the Survey Monkey, but I'm pretty sure the application in terms of the justification consisted of R5 because it's not commercial and it's a change. And you know what, that's fine, okay? So currently we've got our zoning layer on, you can see that 6 North Old Mill Bottom is zoned R1 currently. And like I said, that application, it's about 1 sentence for a justification requesting R5. And so if we were to consider R5 for this property, it could be consistent with some established R5 in the area. That's that orange that where my cursor is hovering. And it could be an opportunity to increase housing diversity in this area. However, if we were to consider R5 for 6 North Old Mill Bottom, for comprehensive zoning purposes, we should consider it for 10 North Old Mill Bottom, 1490 Shottown, and 1482 Shottown.
What was their one sentence?
Let me get it
I
for
think it was so that it's not commercial.
you. Yeah, I think
I believe that was their one.
I'm fairly certain that is their one sentence. Goes along with zoning nearby, stops, oh, sorry, there's 2 sentences, guys, my bad.
So this is 6 North of Old Mill Bottom.
That's correct.
Across from where the storage cylinder is.
Can you
Go back to the map for me.
Thank you.
So it's existing is what, and they're asking.
Is there water?
Existing
Yeah,
is
there's
R1. Let me turn on the water sewer layers.
north of,
I'm fairly certain that it does, and that's why we thought about it.
It's north.
yeah. Yeah, because the community's well down there.
I don't think, yeah.
So the dilapidated shit, well, dilapidated shit.
We've got water is in planned service and sewer is in future.
But can you turn on like the sewer line?
You want to
Sure, it
see?
stops the
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
no one bridge is gonna do.
I mean, because, yeah,
But they want,
really good point.
it's a really big drop.
oh, you're gonna have some grinders down there.
Yeah, I mean, you're
All
gonna.
right, full disclosure, I know the owner of that one too, so I'm abstaining. But the drop is after. That 6 is actually up on top. And then the drop happens afterwards, and there's a residence.
Is the shading the elevation marker?
Sorry, right now we're looking at,
I mean,
I'm gonna turn off some of our zoning and plan land use for you guys for a second. I have on the sewer mains, but I don't,
There we go.
let me go back to sewer for a second, see if I can help you out.
So they're saying they don't want commercial, they don't want to be converted, they want to stay as residential.
That's correct.
Okay, and you're
Um,
asking us on 610, 1482 on Old Shoptown
yeah, if
to
we,
consider the whole thing to be rezoned as something.
yeah, so they requested R5.
On both sides.
it's actually not that far.
Yeah.
It's right at Elkwood Court.
Yeah.
Sewer in there as well.
It actually comes in behind where I used to,
Yeah.
Hickory Wood too.
So, yeah, so Bo's question was, yep, they requested the R5 on 6 North Old Mill because it's not commercial. It's something that it'll allow them to do more. And just for comprehensive zoning purposes, we wouldn't just do one of those, we would do the whole scoop over
And
here,
what is it zoned now?
R1,
And they're asking it to be.
R5, and R5 is consistent with over
But
here.
we didn't hear from 1482, right?
No, we didn't
The
hear
old
from
man, it's a little
1482.
kennel back there.
1490 or 10. But it's a similar situation to like earlier times tonight where they'll get a letter. There are other opportunities to provide us their thoughts. So,
Can you back out just a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, this is really a very wooded area. I haven't been back there very much, but there's only a few homes that are back in there.
And Sturbridge,
It's really-
Sturbridge is R1 on that side or R2.
I'm turning on
Yeah.
voting for you now. So yeah, we've got R1, that's that white overcast color.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see R1 to the west. And they're asking for R5, which is over here on the east, and that's why we would do all of this corner just for consistency to continue that R5, just so it's not just kind of tossed in the middle there.
Can you just go to the elevation?
Elevation.
Because it seems to me that this is a pretty ravine filled area.
It's stream heavy, swamp heavy.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult.
Go take it down, go take a ride to the old shop.
Give me 1 second, sorry. I just turned on the streams for you guys, sorry. And then we're looking for elevation.
Just, or do you have like a steep slope layer?
Oh, yeah, we got
The
some.
graph.
Yeah. that is better.
Or two.
Sorry, when I clicked on elevation earlier, it wouldn't let me see what was below it.
There you go.
So I gotta zoom in, so forgive me, but it'll appear like an orangey color once the steep slopes kick in. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Jesse, drop the key down so we can see the difference between the orange and the yellow.
That's 25, isn't it?
So you're too far.
Slopes
There
are
we go.
contiguous area of 3,000, 5,000 square feet. 5,000 square feet.
It's actually cheaper, so
Yeah, and that's a pretty rugged area.
Even more. You have big parcels.
I mean. All of Whispering Woods is sort of that way.
Yeah, it is.
I used to,
But
but that one property, that was just.
that is just, when I went through that area, I said, this is so wonderful that there's actually all this forest that's back in here. Off of Route 50.
What are the size of the lots back there?
Great question. Starting with 1482, that's the biggest one.
Yeah. He's got 10 acres.
So is that we,
It's currently zoned R1.
I mean, it's interesting that it's R1 has some things subdivided.
All those areas.
This would require extensive grading, is that right, in order to do anything with it?
There's a lot of 15% slopes per month.
It's acres for the big one.
So that's 10, and the other one probably 5, and then the other ones are 2 to 3, if I remember.
Six is 3.97.
I don't
Yeah.
think it makes sense as R1. I don't think you can get.
R2 is the most density, keep it as R1.
I would not.
Is that a motion that I hear?
That is a motion.
Motion to keep it R1.
Keep R1, that whole area.
All right, do I hear any seconds?
I'll start with that.
Okay,
C's motion.
give me a second to find it on the list.
So it is what today?
It's R1,
And they're asking for,
R5, but the
okay.
motion is for R1.
okay, thank you.
Oh, here it is, got it. All right, so I'm hearing motioning R1, keeping it R1 for the whole area. We're voting today. I heard a motion in a second, so I'm just gonna get us rolling. Michael.
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bo,
Aye.
Emma's on vacation. Lauren had to go. Lori,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Kevin. Tom.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Shayla. I think Shayla had to go. I'll circle back. Walter, Holly, I think had to go. John's on vacation. So anybody, Ann,
Yes.
all right. Anybody else, if you were on the call and I missed you, speak now, forever hold your peace. All right, the ayes have it. All right, so that's one that I can remove from the Survey Monkey, guys.
Or some of those, like you did this time, you can put them in category together in certain areas.
Yep, there's some that are grouped together. There are some that like this one, if you saw it before I moved it where I said, let's talk about this one. Yeah, so hopefully like as you'll go through and we can do again like we did this time, I can list them all at the beginning. I can highlight the ones that had consensus. If there's one you feel strongly about, you can say, even though it had consensus, let's still talk about it. And we can move through like we did tonight.
you guys can please have this done Sunday evening, just so we have time Monday morning to evaluate this. Because there's it's a lot more I need to dealt with so far, so just, please keep that in mind. Well,
Yeah, this is a quick turnaround, but it is the most we've given you, so I do apologize for that. If there's anything that you can think of while you're reviewing that you're like, man, if I just had that one layer on like we did tonight, just message me, I can get it to you. Now that you guys have done the Survey Monkey one time, is there any like other information that you think would have been helpful that you wish I'd included or?
I appreciate you emailing me what my answers were from the Survey Monkey. During the course of the meeting, I didn't happen to see that you did it until just 15 minutes ago. Is there any way to make the Survey Monkey that we can then print our results?
Yeah, that's.
Because that would help us, because remembering 6 days later, if you were yes or no on that property, or you were jotting it down on a different piece of paper, which of course sitting on my desk at home.
If you can get your answers to me by 8 AM on Monday morning, I can get them back to you, if that helps, before the meeting.
Definitely gotta do it by midnight on Sunday anyway, so fair enough. Okay,
So we can get our.
I can send you your own back, yeah.
it would be really helpful, I think, to know how you voted at
yeah.
that moment, while you're reviewing it all. Had 14 tabs open and looking.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we didn't discuss it. 461 College Parkway, that was the nursery. Did we reach consensus that that was R5?
I think that was on our consensus list today, so we did not pull it out and talk about it for 491 College Parkway.
So what, yeah, so what was the decision?
Yeah, let me see. So per our Survey Monkey, we had 12 members of the SAC or 80% agree with the OPZ recommendation of R5 on that property. Any other?
Anything else? Well, I thank everybody who came in the audience and all these team players who are here. I think I filled out my third batch, sorry.
Yeah, Kevin and Ann, I just want to talk to you real quick, because I was sitting earlier this afternoon, I told you all the third batch included all the 3 final applications. We've now included that final 3 applications. So Ann, Kevin and Lori, leave it in, so I think you guys are gonna have a game, but because you completed it early, I have to get to send you. So you guys are.
Send them their answers from the first one, so they can just click them.
I tried to do that a few minutes before the meeting. I got the whole list and not just the 3 you said to let you know.
Yeah, Lori, no worries. I can send you your Survey Monkey answers. So
That favor of Jeremy?
There's a lot, I can hear a lot of talking.
8:27.
I thought there was 3 that outstanding that I need to do.
There are 3, so there's 3 on the
Oh.
end, and so since it's taking you back to the beginning, I don't want to make you put in all those answers.
Oh,
again,
I
but
see. Okay.
I can either send you your Survey Monkey answers and you can do it on that end, or you can just